Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're talking about a building, but not just any building. This one's shaped like a traditional African pot, and it's had the celebrations, the sorrows, really the entire soul of a nation. We're diving into the story of the FNB Stadium. You know, this quote right here, it just nails it. A place of celebration, mourning, arts, culture, history, and triumph. That perfectly sums up the FNB Stadium, or as a lot of people know it, Soccer City, or even more affectionately, the Calabash. It's been a stage for everything: national joy, deep grief, basically the whole story of modern South Africa. All right, let's get into it. Before this stadium was this huge global icon for football, it was something else entirely. It opened way back in 1989, and boom, it immediately became the backdrop for South Africa's massive political transition. So its story, it doesn't really start with a soccer ball. It starts with the fight for freedom. Wow, just look at this timeline. It's kind of nuts when you lay it out. In just 7 short years, this place goes from just opening its doors to hosting Nelson Mandela's very first rally after prison, then to mourning anti-apartheid heroes, and then, a few years later, celebrating a huge symbolic sporting victory. This was so much more than a stadium. It was like the nation's town square.
And that's really the key thing to get here. Right from the get-go, this stadium's identity was completely tied up in the fight for freedom. I mean, can you just imagine the energy on that day in 1990? Tens of thousands of people all gathered to hear Mandela speak after 27 years. That single event just cemented the stadium's place, wrote it right into the fabric of the new South Africa.
Okay, so fast forward a bit. Let's talk about how this already historic place was totally transformed for the world's biggest stage, the 2010 FIFA World Cup. And I'm not just talking about a simple renovation here. This was a complete and total reimagining. So in 2004, South Africa gets the nod. They're going to be the first African nation to host the World Cup. Think about that. It was a massive, monumental moment. And the pressure was on. The challenge wasn't just to build a top-notch venue. No, it was to create a true icon that would show the entire world what a modern, vibrant South Africa was all about. And the transformation, honestly, it was staggering. You can see the difference right here. It went from a pretty standard open-air stadium holding about 40,000 people to this absolute architectural marvel that seats almost 95,000. The capacity more than doubled. It became the largest stadium in all of Africa. So, what did all that cost? A cool 3.3 billion rand. At the time, that was around 440 million US dollars. A huge, massive investment, right? But it was all about creating an unforgettable centerpiece for the first ever World Cup on African soil. So that unique shape, where did it come from? Well, the architects looked to a really powerful and unifying African symbol, the calabash. You know, it's a traditional gourd, used for pretty much everything from cooking to carrying water. Symbolically, it's all about community, about people coming together. A perfect melting pot metaphor, don't you think? And this is what I find so cool. Every single architectural detail tells a part of the story. That mosaic on the outside, it represents the diverse people of the continent. That ring of lights at the bottom, it's like a fire under the pot, symbolizing passion for the game. Even the 10 vertical lines have meaning. 9 point to the other host stadiums in South Africa, and the 10th points all the way to Berlin, where the previous World Cup final was held. It's literally storytelling through design. And the final result? Well, FIFA themselves called it one of the most artistic and awe-inspiring venues on the entire continent. I mean, that says it all. This wasn't just a stadium anymore. It was a genuine work of art. But, you know, the story doesn't just stop when the World Cup final whistle blows. Not at all. After 2010, the stadium really cemented its place as the vibrant, beating heart of South African sport and entertainment. Its football legacy alone is just immense. As you can see here, it's hosted the final of the Africa Cup of Nations twice. And of course, who could forget the 2010 World Cup final? That's where the whole world heard the sound of the vuvuzelas as Spain lifted the trophy. What a moment. And for the local fans, this place is sacred ground. It's the spiritual home of the Soweto Derby, the massive rivalry between the Kaizer Chiefs and the Orlando Pirates. We're talking one of the most passionate, intense rivalries anywhere in world football. The atmosphere on Derby Day is just electric. And it's not just for soccer either. Check out this number, 94,807, almost 95,000 people. That was the record-breaking crowd that jammed into the stadium back in 2010. to watch the Springboks, the national rugby team, take on their biggest rivals, the New Zealand All Blacks. Incredible. The stadium's legacy also bleeds right into the world of music. I mean, the list of performers is basically a who's who of global superstars. We're talking U2, Coldplay, Lady Gaga, Rihanna. The list goes on and on. It really proves just how versatile this place is as a world-class venue. All right, let's bring this all full circle. We're going to see how this stadium's role as this place of national gathering, of memory, how it continued, and how it perfectly bookends the story that started all those years ago with Nelson Mandela's freedom. And here it is, on December 10th, 2013, the stadium hosted the memorial service for Nelson Mandela. It's just an incredible moment of historical symmetry, isn't it? The world gathered to say goodbye to Madiba in the exact same place where he gave that first powerful freedom speech 23 years earlier. Over 90 world leaders were there, people like Barack Obama, all gathered to pay tribute. That solemn event, it really sealed the stadium's identity forever. It wasn't just a landmark anymore. It became a living monument to South Africa's incredible journey, a place where the nation, and frankly the world, could unite in both celebration and remembrance. So, what does a building mean to a nation? What's the big takeaway here? I think it's that sometimes a building is so much more than just a building. The Calabash has been a stage for history, a symbol of rebirth, a keeper of an entire nation's story. Which really just leaves us with one final thought to chew on. At what point does all that steel and concrete actually become the soul of a country?